Man, a week sure can fly by fast, especially when you're staying on a beach. Had a great time with wife and family, and now getting ready to resume the Great Loop trip on the Sea-Doo. So, a couple of things. Number one is I had debated when I started the trip of whether I should post content on my personal profile on Facebook or whether I should start up a dedicated page. And I thought, well, I probably won't get too many followers, so I'll let it ride on my profile. Well, after accepting hundreds and hundreds of friend requests, which is great, I am so appreciative to everybody reaching out. However, it's now kind of blowing up my feed in Facebook. So from here forward, I'm going to be posting content on a dedicated Facebook page, which is where this video will be posted at Sea-Doo Looper on Facebook, and that's just to make it easier for people to try to follow. They don't have to become friends and all that jazz. They can just go ahead and like the page or follow the page. So we're going to do that. And I thought, as a way to kind of recap the trip up to this point, I thought I'd do a by the numbers. And anybody that's followed some of my trips before know that I kind of like to do this whole by the numbers thing. So we'll start it off with 1,701. And that is the number of miles traveled so far on the ski. So that's running from Omaha, Nebraska, all the way down to essentially Freeport, Florida, which is close to Destin, Panama City area. But yep, that's a load of miles for the trip so far. 1,366. So that is the number of dollars spent on fuel so far. And that's averaging out to be $5.29 per gallon. And that's not so bad, but I have been taking the opportunity to fill up the jugs with fuel that's not marina fuel, but more, more where automobiles fill up, etc. It's a little bit cheaper doing it that way. I've done that a couple of times. All right, 142. That is the average miles I traveled each of the 12 traveling days so far. So out of the entire trip, I've spent 16 days on the trip, and 12 of those were traveling days, and each of those days I averaged 142 miles, which that's a lot of miles, and I do expect that to drop here as I am going through the coast and going to be hitting some, certainly like through Miami and Fort Lauderdale, there's going to be a lot of no-wake zones and things like that. So, all right, next number, 95. That is the number of engine hours on my Sea-Doo trophy already. Started the trip at 26 hours. I bought the ski and took delivery roughly April 1st. So in a matter of 3 months, this ski now has 95 hours on it. That's a lot for a Sea-Doo, for a jet ski. So next number, 42. That is the number of gallons that I can carry between the 18-gallon tank on the Sea-Doo and an extra 24 gallons that I can carry in the red jugs. That's the total fuel capacity I can carry. And so, number one, that's a lot of weight. So when all 4 of those jugs are full, it's an extra 160 pounds or so. But it also gives me really good range when I need it. 18 number, that's the number of locks that I've traversed so far. And if you recall or were watching, when I came out of Missouri, I actually went against the grain, if you will. I jogged north just a little bit up to Alton Marina and had to go through a lock. And then the next morning, turned around, went back through that same lock. So I'll end up going through a couple more locks than most people will that do the Great Loop. 16 16, that's the number of days, as mentioned on the jet ski portion of the trip. Um, and out of those 16, 4 nights were spent camping, and 12 were spent in hotels, bed and breakfast type of accommodations. 12, that's the traveling days so far from Omaha to Freeport. And 8, 8 is the number of times that I used IDF. So IDF on a Sea-Doo is the intelligent. Uh, let's see if I get this right. Intelligent Debris Free System, IDF. Basically, it's a way for you turn off the ski, you hit a switch, and start the motor, and it basically reverses the direction of the shaft. And what normally would, maybe you get something caught in the intake of the ski, and by reversing the shaft, it's basically shooting water out through the intake area of the ski. And coming down from Omaha, all those twigs and tree branches, debris, 8 different times I had something get sucked into that intake. And when that happens, it basically causes a huge cavitation. The water won't flow correctly and it vibrates and you can't go anywhere. So immediately shut down the ski, and I used that IDF function 8 different times. So without this IDF, I would have had to have taken the ski to the shore and tried to lift the ski and put it on its side, or it would have been a mess. So love the IDF function on that Sea-Doo. 6.6, that is the average miles per gallon so far. This is a little bit better than I was planning on, which is great. But I also know that I had a lot of current coming down the rivers. So I do expect that number to drop, probably somewhere between 5.5, 6 on good flat water, and maybe 5 to 5.5 on a little bit rougher water. 4, that's the number of nights I've spent camping in a tent on the trip. And it was hot. Camping in the tent was hot. I did have a fan. I enjoy tent camping, but I got to tell you, after riding for on average 145 miles, setting up tent, and then the next morning tearing down camp, only to go ride 145 miles again, it was a lot of work. So, but I didn't have a choice. There weren't any marinas on that section of the trip, and so I really had to. That was kind of, I didn't have any other choice really. From here forward, it'll be mostly marinas, hotels, and a lot of people have reached out to me and offered up. You know, they live on the water and they have a dock, and they're like, "Hey, come stay with me." And I'm taking people up on that. I think it's awesome that people are reaching out and doing that. So 3, that's the number of days that I've worked. Out of those 16 days traveling on the jet ski portion of the trip, 3 of those days were spent logging in remotely from my hotel room to the office virtually and putting in a full day's work. I'm doing that to really try to provide support back to the crew, the home crew, if you will, at work. I know they're having to pick up a load with me being out so much, but anything I can do to kind of keep things moving along at the office is good. 2, that is the number of times that people asked me if I was running for my wife or another woman. Really? No, I'm not running for my wife. Number 1, number of times I used the jump start battery. As if you've been following along, the ski was hard to start in the mornings, and at one point I actually had to go ahead and hook up I have a lithium battery pack that I can use as a jump starter, and use that one morning to get the ski going. So a little scary to have to use that. little bit about the sluggish starting. There's some theories that are growing between my home dealer in Omaha, Nebraska, and also the dealer down here in Freeport at Distinctive Cycles. Brett and Joey and the crew, they have some thoughts as to why this is happening. Basically, it's a compression issue with the water box. That water is building up overnight, and in that water box, making it very hard to start, either in the water box or in the baffles that lead to the water box. But basically, it's a working theory, and we're going to do some different tests along the route here to try to prove out what's going on. One again, that's a day spent, 1 day spent in the same town, unplanned. Woke up early, wanted to get out on the lock. No, 3-hour wait. They're doing work on the lock. Okay, well, I spent the next 3 hours then kind of doing some maintenance on the ski. Called out. It was about 12:30 or so. Okay, I'm ready. Nope. 3-hour wait on the lock again. I was stuck. I couldn't go anywhere. So that was in Demopolis. It's fine. Unexpected holdover, delay. It's going to happen on this trip. Zero caffeine while on the trip, while on the jet ski portion of the trip. Usually, if I'm working, I'll drink caffeine, either pop, soda, or whatever, or different caffeine. But while riding, it just doesn't really do me anything, and I'm not a coffee drinker in the morning, so yeah, no caffeine. All right, well, that's by the numbers, and should be riding again on Saturday the 2nd. So heading out here from Freeport and heading over to Apalachicola, which is a little over 100 miles. Hopefully the weather holds and be able to have a good ride. Thanks everyone for following, and spread the word. Thanks. Bye-bye.